I'm Tiffany Gourley Carter, Policy Counsel at the National Council of Nonprofits, and this is your nonprofit nonpartisan election tip on ballot measures. Today, we have Meg Mikolajczyk from Nebraska Table with us. And Meg, let's just jump right in. What is a ballot measure?
A ballot measure to me is an opportunity for citizens, specifically voters, to weigh in and make policy decisions for themselves, for the people. It can look like a variety of different things. There's no federal law that dictates a ballot measure, and so it's state controlled.
That's a good segue into, I've heard them called different things, an initiative, a referendum, a proposition. What does that mean? And does that actually matter to the voter?
The name of it probably doesn't matter much to the voter, but it does matter to the people as they are trying to qualify these efforts and get them to the people for a vote. I should also mention there are some opportunities where legislators would put a ballot measure to the people as well. But for our purposes, I'm going to talk about citizen-led ones in this instance. So there are certain requirements that change depending on what type of tool you're using. An initiative is a proactive measure where the citizens are bringing forward a statute. A referendum is much more time-bound. It has to, it's the repeal of some statute that a legislative body has just passed. You can't say 100 years ago, I hated the statute that they put in place, so now it's time to do a referendum. They passed it now. We have a certain amount of time to decide to repeal it. So that matters. And then a constitutional amendment may also have different requirements to get it passed. So it may have a higher signature threshold or something of that nature.
So how do they actually get on the ballot then? How do they qualify?
So what you'll need to do is, one, you need policy language unless you're doing a referendum, in which case you're just repealing that language. And you'll really want to make sure you work with an attorney and some policy experts on what these things are. Unlike those of us who do lobbying at legislatures where there's some really great sample language that we can at least start from, laws on how language for ballot measures can be created are really specific. In some states, you can throw everything in the kitchen sink into your initiative or your constitutional amendment. In others, it's one very narrow topic, or you're going to get thrown off the ballot. So you need to have good language that complies with law. Then you need to have, follow the timeline. These things are time bound with how long you have to get signatures. You'll need to make sure you get signatures in the right, parts of your state if there's a geographic distribution requirement. And then you turn it into the governing body, Secretary of State's office, and they verify your signatures, make sure you've complied with law, and then they will put it on the ballot in the next general election if that's what your statutes say.
Say we get all these signatures and we go through all this process. How can a voter actually see what ballot measures might be on their ballot before election day? Is that possible?
Once we get close to that actual election where the issue will be determined, your election commission offices should have a sample ballot. A lot of them, you can just type in your address and it will show you what your ballot will look like. And that will include ballot measures that you'll be able to weigh in on. And I would also add, it's, depending on what election it is and all the things that are on your ballot, it might be on the back or it might be on a second page. These things usually come way after all the other candidates. So make sure you look at your entire ballot, because this is the biggest opportunity you have to weigh in on the future of your state, what resources you have access to.
So here's the million-dollar question. Can nonprofits actually engage on ballot measures and do it in a nonpartisan way?
Yes, and they should. And I want to see all these 501c3s jumping in when issues are going to the ballot that are, fundamental to their mission and the communities they serve. So the thing I think that trips up nonprofits a lot around whether or not they can engage in ballot measures is it feels like we're influencing the outcome of an election, which those buzzwords should be ingrained in all of our 501c3 brains, because that is not allowed under the IRS. The interesting thing about ballot measures is it's actually lobbying. It is not electoral political work. And it's lobbying because we are actually asking citizens who stand in the shoes of a policymaker to take an action on legislation.
And our last question, Meg, is there anything else that you have that you've been thinking about that voters should be thinking about when it comes to ballot measures?
You get to decide what your Constitution says, what laws you do or don't have on the books in this instance. So regardless of how you feel about candidates and whether or not the people on the ballot will or won't represent you, you get to make decisions about you and your friends and your neighbors right there on the ballot. So if you have no other reason to vote, this is it. Vote for something. Vote for a policy that will impact your life. And I just think ballot initiatives, ballot measures, referendums, this is going to be a really important way for all of us to continue to use our voices in the democratic process.
Thank you, Meg, for this quick nonprofit, nonpartisan election tip on ballot measures. I'm Tiffany Gourley Carter. Please make sure you're registered and go vote.